Well, a stunner this morning because former British Prime Minister David Cameron has sensationally been returned to office as the UK's new Foreign Secretary. Joining us live now from London is the Executive Editor of Politico Europe, Anne McElvoy. Anne, appreciate your time this morning. How's this being received and was anybody expecting this?
I think it's been very variously received, and some people are just relieved that Rishi Sunak got rid of Suella Braverman, Home Secretary, Interior Ministry person in the British system, who had really gone very hot and heavy on protests, particularly on the pro-Palestinian protests in the last week. And she'd refused to back down on some of her language and on a piece she wrote for the Times newspaper, which seemed to have flammed up things even more around the protests. So I think there was a relief in many quarters in the Conservative Party around Rishi Sunak that he managed to get rid of her. But then he reached back to David Cameron, and I think that is more of a sign of desperation because he couldn't find someone that he wanted to have a major office of state who was kind of hanging around in the front ranks of the Conservative Party at the moment. Remember, he was appointed, effectively gifted into his seat by David Cameron back in 2015. So if you want the full 2015 vibe, I've been comparing it on the podcast I do for Politico with the Bruno Mars kind of era. We've really gone back quite a bit here in order to go forward.
Tell me something, and why is Suella Braverman's comments, and I'm talking about in the midst of a rise in anti-Semitism across the world here, why are her comments, why have they been seen as so controversial?
Well, I think it's not so much that she took a strong line on anti-Semitism, which would be reasonable enough, and also that among the marchers around the pro-Palestinian cause were certainly organisers who had sympathies with or apologies for or made excuses about Hamas. That is, I think, pretty factually grounded. The question is, if you're the Home Secretary, how far do you go with that? I mean, you're not a kind of independent commentator. You are actually the Home Secretary and you have responsibility for police, etc. She then accused the police of going soft on certain groups who protested and softer than on others. So she kind of opened up another front in the culture wars. And people will say, fine, like, go do that, knock yourself out. But the trouble is she's the Home Secretary and she does answer to the Prime Minister. And it would appear that he did not particularly want to take this course of action. And that's why she doesn't have a job anymore.
Okay. And I suppose she'll come back in some stage in the near future, just to wrap?
I don't think so. I mean, I think she'll be one of the people who will compete for the leadership of the Conservative Party if and when they go down to a major defeat next year. But I'm not sure that it will be Suella Braverman who comes out triumphant. It's often the person who puts themselves up and gets shot down.
Okay, Anne McElvoy, appreciate your time. Thank you.